In a major U.S. policy shift, President Donald Trump said on Tuesday he would order the lifting of sanctions on Syria at the behest of Saudi Arabia's crown prince.
They've had their share of travesty, war, killing, many years. That's why my administration has already taken the first steps toward restoring normal relations between the United States and Syria for the first time in more than a decade.
Trump made the surprise announcement at the start of a tour of Gulf Arab states that began in Saudi Arabia. A sanctions reprieve would be a huge boost for Syria's Islamist president and former al-Qaeda commander Ahmed Al-Sharaa, who was looking to stabilize a country shattered by more than a decade of civil war. The White House and two Syrian presidential sources said Trump is set to say hello to Sharaa on Wednesday in Saudi Arabia. Trump said he made the decision after discussions with Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and Turkish President Tayyip Erdoğan, whose governments have both strongly urged the lifting of sanctions.
Now it's their time to shine. It's their time to shine. So I say good luck, Syria. Show us something very special.
The United Nations, which has been pushing countries to lift sanctions on Syria, welcomed the move.
It was important for us to see relief on sanctions on Syria.
The U.S. imposed sanctions during Bashar al-Assad's rule. The sanctions cut Syria off from the global financial system and deterred foreign investment and trade, hampering efforts to rebuild from the war. Damascus residents celebrated Trump's decision. It feels like a mountain has been lifted off our chest, said this local. Trump's announcement comes despite Israel's deep suspicion of Sharaa's administration. Israeli officials have continued to describe Sharaa as a jihadist. Sharaa was, for years, the leader of al-Qaeda's official wing in the Syrian conflict. He first joined al-Qaeda in Iraq, where he spent 5 years in a U.S. prison.
أنا ببارك بعد 15 سنة دمار وحصار وبنى تحتية خربانة كهرباء أحوال معيشية كتير سيئة. أنا مع وأنا بتأمل خير إن شاء الله تنفرج على هالعالم اللي تعبت العالم بعد 15 سنة. إن شاء الله خير وبدي أشوف شيء على الأرض. إن شاء الله بنشوف شيء على الأرض. إن شاء الله الأمور لخير إن شاء الله ومبروك.
خطوة حلوة كتير إذا كان فعلا هالموضوع رح يصير، وإن شاء الله بنتأمل الخير لأنه الشعب كتير تعبان والأوضاع صعبة كتير بالفترة الماضية كانت، فإن شاء الله خير.
وشي كتير كنا نحن ناطرينه من سنين وسنين، يعني الجبل وإن شاء الله على صدرنا، لأنه هيك ممكن تاخذ العالم أريحيتها بالعيشة. الوضع المعيشي أنا بتوقع لكتير منيح لأحسن لبعدين. هي ما راح تكون لمسة نبي بس بدها شوية وقت. صار الوقت أقصر شوي، بتوقع صار أقصر شوي، ومبروك لنا كلنا.
كتير شيء مفرح للصراحة، مبسوطين كتير كتير كتير، وأنا مو من هون، يعني أنا عايشة برا سوريا، فكتير مبسوطة بهذا القرار. العالم كلها مبسوطة مثل ما شايف. الحمد لله، إن شاء الله يكون خير للبلد يا رب.
بشكر ولي العهد محمد بن سلمان والملك سلمان وجميع الشعب السعودي على هالوقفة، وقفة رجال والله نخوة من يوم النخوة معانا من أول ما بلشنا الثورة لحد هاللحظة. شكرا مليون. وسقط بشار وسقط نظام الأسد.
All right. Good afternoon. Earlier today, the Secretary General, who, as you know, is in Berlin, the importance of Germany's role in peacekeeping, and is.
Does the Secretary General have any comment on the announcement that the U.S. President Donald Trump will meet Syria's leader tomorrow?
No, I think it's. Listen, it's not for us to comment. I think we have been supportive of the efforts of the interim authorities to rebuild their country in line with the ideals found in Resolution 2254, and for Syria to resume its place amongst nations.
A follow-up to Edie's question on Syria. President Trump has just announced that he's going to lift all US sanctions on Syria. This is something the UN has been pushing for. Can you give us your response and just remind us why the UN was pushing for these sanctions to be lifted?
Well, I think it was important for us to see relief on sanctions on Syria, to help the reconstruction of Syria, to help the Syrian people recover from more than a decade of conflict, a decade of underinvestment. And we continue to support the reconstruction, whether it's physical or psychological, of Syria, for it to be a country where all Syrians of all faiths, of all ethnicities and minorities feel safe and represented. The Deputy Humanitarian Coordinator for Gaza, Susanna Tekalitz, together with an OCHA team, visited the hospital where she spoke with staff.
The president should also be cautious, like the United States should be cautious too, because you don't want to go whole hog in and invest in any particular regime, because even though they've stayed for 6 months, there's no guarantee that they're going to continue beyond 6 months, right? What we saw in Syria is truly a revolution, right? A new regime came to power that wants to reorder society in a fundamental way. It's not going to be a dynasty the way that it was under the Assads. And anytime that happens, there's so much sort of at stake and so much up in the air that things can change in really unpredictable ways.